A stone giant rises from the town square, its shadow stretching over the market crowds. This was the Guildhall, the silent heart of every thriving medieval town. Why did these buildings become the true centers of power, trade, and community, more vital than any castle or church? Uncover the hidden history of Guildhalls, and you will see the blueprint of the modern world. We will reveal how these structures guarded immense fortunes and decided the fates of entire cities. What secrets could walls built for commerce possibly hold about the nature of power itself? The shadow of the Guildhall was cast by the power of the institution it housed. To grasp why these buildings became so central, we must first step inside the world of the guilds themselves. In the centuries following the collapse of the Roman Empire, Europe was a fractured and perilous place for a craftsman. Roads crumbled, trade networks frayed, and a lone weaver or blacksmith had little protection from bandits or ruthless competitors. Out of this chaos, a new form of order began to emerge. Craftsmen and merchants started banding together, forming sworn brotherhoods known as guilds. These were not simple clubs, they were the economic engines of the medieval world. A merchant guild typically came first, an alliance of traders who pooled their resources to secure safe passage for their goods along dangerous roads. They negotiated favorable terms with local lords and, most importantly, secured a monopoly. If you wanted to sell cloth or spices in a town, you had to be a member of its merchant guild. This control was absolute, but the craft guilds were where the real magic happened. Imagine a young boy, perhaps 12 years old, arriving at a master carpenter's workshop. He would not be paid, not for years. He was an apprentice, there to learn the mysteries of the trade from the ground up. He swept the floors, he prepared the materials, and he watched. After 7 long years, if he proved skilled and diligent, he could become a journeyman, finally earning a wage and traveling to other towns to learn new techniques. Only after creating a true masterpiece, judged worthy by the guild masters, could he hope to become a master himself and open his own shop. This rigid system was about more than just tradition, it was about control. The guild set unwavering quality standards. A shoemaker in the cobbler's guild could not use cheap leather, and a baker could not dilute his flour with sawdust. Their reputation and the town's depended on it. They fixed prices to prevent destructive undercutting and regulated working hours, so no single member could dominate the market by working through the night. In a world without brand names or consumer protection agencies, the guild seal on a product was a promise of its worth. These organizations provided a social safety net, too, supporting sick members and caring for the families of those who died. They were in essence a world within a world, a self-governing society of professionals that offered stability, identity, and power in an otherwise uncertain age. But this control over commerce was only one side of the guild's power. These organizations were woven into the very fabric of daily life, serving as social and religious fraternities that cared for their members from cradle to grave. When a master craftsman fell ill, it was his guild brothers who ensured his family had food on the table. If a member died, the guild would pay for his funeral and provide for his widow and children, preventing a sudden descent into destitution. This created a powerful bond of loyalty, a sense that you were part of something greater than yourself, a family forged not by blood, but by trade and mutual obligation. Their religious devotion was equally profound. Each guild typically adopted a patron saint, often one connected to their craft. Saint Eligius, for instance, was the patron of goldsmiths and metalworkers, while Saint Crispin watched over the shoemakers. Guilds funded and maintained their own chapels within the local church, where masses were said for the souls of deceased members. They were also the driving force behind the great religious pageants that transformed city streets into stages for biblical stories. The shipwrights' guild might build the ark for a Noah's pageant, while the bakers provided bread for the Last Supper tableau. These spectacular events were more than just pious displays. They were a public demonstration of the guild's wealth, unity, and essential role in the community's spiritual health. And then there were the feasts. On the day of their patron saint, the entire guild would gather for a grand celebration within their hall. Tables groaned under the weight of roasted meats and fine ale, toasts were made and songs were sung. These lavish festivals were not mere parties. They were crucial rituals that reinforced social hierarchies, settled disputes, and solidified the bonds of brotherhood. A journeyman breaking bread with a master craftsman was a powerful reminder of their shared identity and common goals. This multifaceted existence, part trade union, part insurance company, part religious confraternity, made the need for a dedicated physical space absolutely critical. The Guildhall was the tangible expression of this complex life. It was not merely an office, it was their treasury, their courtroom, their banquet hall, and their chapel all rolled into one. Without this central, imposing home, the Guild could not function as the complete social organism it had become. A tavern's back room was no place to guard a fortune. Where could a guild securely store its strongbox, filled with the membership dues and fines that funded its operations? Private homes were equally unsuitable, vulnerable to fire and theft. The Guild's very existence depended on its ability to project an image of unshakable stability and trust. A locked chest in a master's attic could not inspire the same confidence as a fortified stone building in the town square. This need for security was matched by a deep need for ceremony. The solemn swearing in of a new apprentice, the rigorous judging of a journeyman's masterpiece, the lavish feast for a patron saint, these rituals required a dedicated and impressive space. You could not conduct the official business of the Weavers' Guild amidst the spilled ale and casual chatter of a public house. The Guildhall provided that stage, a controlled environment where authority could be performed and respected. Beyond practicality and ceremony, the hall was a powerful symbol. Erecting a permanent, often ornate building was a public declaration that the Guild was here to stay. It was an announcement of their success, wealth, and official status within the town's hierarchy. A guild without a hall was merely a voluntary association, but a guild with a hall was an institution, a pillar of the community with a physical stake in the city's future. Its very architecture, from the grand facade facing the marketplace to the meticulously carved symbols of the trade above its door, communicated power to every citizen and visitor. This was not just a building, it was the Guild's identity made manifest in stone and timber. That identity, carved in wood and stone, was meant to be seen by everyone. The architecture of a guild hall was never accidental. Every element from its foundation to its rooftop was a deliberate statement of power and prestige. These were not humble workshops, they were the palaces of commerce, designed to overwhelm the senses and command respect. A typical guild hall presented a grand facade to the world, often facing directly onto the main marketplace. This was the guild's public face, and it was meant to impress. The ground floor was frequently an open arcade, a covered market space known in some regions as a butterwalk, where guild members could sell their goods sheltered from the rain. This practical feature also drew the lifeblood of the town's commerce directly to the guild's doorstep. Above this bustling activity rose the main hall, a vast chamber capable of holding the entire membership for meetings and feasts. Its size alone was a declaration of the guild's numerical strength and unity. Below ground, deep cellars provided secure storage for valuable goods, from barrels of wine to bolts of fine cloth, protecting the guild's collective wealth. But it was the materials and craftsmanship that truly signaled a guild status. In an age where most buildings were simple timber and wattle, a guild hall built of solid stone was a shocking display of financial muscle. The money required to quarry, transport, and dress that much stone was immense. Inside, the wealth continued. Ornate wood carving adorned the ceilings and wall panels. Intricate tapestries, often commissioned from the local Weavers' Guild, would hang from the walls, depicting scenes from the guild's history or the life of its patron saint. The Great Hall of London's Guildhall, rebuilt in the 15th century, still stuns visitors today with its sheer scale, a monument to the city's merchant elite who rivaled the nobility in their influence. Across the channel, the Cloth Hall in Ypres stands as a breathtaking example. Its long, elegant facade, punctuated by dozens of statues and a towering belfry, was not just a place to sell wool. It was a cathedral to commerce, a statement that the trade of cloth was the very foundation of the city's identity and fortune. Every carved guild emblem above the door, every stained glass window, every massive oak beam was a message to the town, to rival guilds, and to the local lord. It said, "We are not just craftsmen, we are the architects of this city's prosperity, and our power is permanent." This central placement was no accident of urban planning. A guild hall did not hide on a quiet back street. It demanded the town's best real estate, its main facade staring directly across the bustling marketplace. This was a deliberate and brilliant power move, a way to embed the guild's authority into the daily rhythm of every citizen's life. From its windows, guild masters could watch the flow of goods and money, ensuring that all trade adhered to their strict regulations. A merchant arriving from a distant city, his carts laden with exotic silks or spices, would see the hall's imposing stonework before he even finished unpacking his wares. The message was immediate and unmistakable. Your business here operates under our watchful eye and by our permission. This constant physical presence made the guild's control over commerce feel as natural and unchanging as the cobblestones underfoot. It was a form of psychological architecture, reinforcing that the market itself was an extension of the guild's domain. The hall was not just in the town, it was the town, the silent partner in every transaction, and the ultimate arbiter of economic life. How could a baker cheat on the weight of his bread when the baker's guild hall loomed just a few yards away? This strategic location turned abstract rules into a tangible, ever-present reality, a stone giant forever reminding everyone who truly held the keys to the city's prosperity. Behind that grand facade lay a fortress. Its ground floor walls were often thick and windowless, a solid barrier of stone or heavy timber. The main entrance was not a welcoming doorway, but a massive iron-studded portal that could be barred from within. This was not a design focused on beauty alone. It was an architectural statement of defense. Inside those impregnable walls rested the two most vital assets of any guild, its wealth and its legitimacy. The collective treasury, a strongbox filled with gold and silver coins from membership dues and fines, was kept here. This was the guild's financial heart, the capital that funded loans to members in need, paid for the grand feasts, and financed the construction of the hall itself. In an age before formal banking institutions, the Guildhall was the bank. Its secure cellars and locked chambers safeguarded the lifeblood of the entire organization. Alongside the treasury were the guild's most precious documents, the royal charters granted by a king or local lord. These were not mere pieces of parchment. They were the legal foundation of the guild's very existence. A charter granted the exclusive right to practice a trade within the town, the power to set standards, and the authority to enforce rules. Losing such a document could mean the dissolution of the guild itself. The official seals used to authenticate agreements and mark quality-approved goods were also stored with utmost security. A stolen seal could be used to forge contracts or pass off shoddy merchandise, devastating the guild's hard-won reputation overnight. Every architectural choice, from the heavy doors to the limited access points, served a single critical purpose: to protect the collective fortune and power that hundreds of craftsmen had spent generations building. The Guildhall stood not just as a symbol of prosperity, but as the unbreachable vault that guaranteed that prosperity would endure. Yet within those same fortified walls, justice was dispensed as surely as coin. The Guildhall was more than a treasury. It was a courtroom, a place where masters gathered not to feast but to judge. The guilds held a powerful legal authority over their members, a jurisdiction granted by royal charter that allowed them to settle their own affairs without the interference of the town's mayor or the local lord. This was the law of the trade, and its seat of power was the Great Hall. Imagine a dispute between two master carpenters. One accuses the other of stealing a wealthy client by offering a secret, illegal discount. Such an act threatened the guild's strict price controls and the harmony of the entire membership. Instead of taking the matter to a public court, the aggrieved master would bring his complaint before a tribunal of his peers within the Guildhall. The proceedings were formal and solemn. The guild's aldermen, its most senior and respected masters, would sit in judgment. Witnesses were called, contracts were examined, and both sides presented their case. The goal was not merely to punish, but to restore balance and uphold the collective rules that protected every member's livelihood. A fine was the most common penalty, a monetary punishment paid directly into the guild's coffers. For more serious or repeated offenses, a craftsman could be suspended from working or even expelled from the guild entirely, a sentence that amounted to economic exile, stripping him of his right to practice his craft in the town. This judicial function extended to quality control, the very heart of the guild's reputation. If a baker was found selling underweight loaves or a cloth merchant was caught selling poorly dyed fabric, it was not the town council that would confront him. A committee of master bakers or master weavers would examine the evidence right there in the hall. They knew the craft's secrets and could spot a flaw invisible to an outsider. Their judgment was final. This self-policing was crucial. It ensured that the guild seal on a product remained an unbreakable promise of quality, fostering trust with customers and maintaining the town's commercial standing. The Guildhall, therefore, was the stage where fairness was performed and order was maintained, all to protect the intricate web of trust that held the medieval economy together. The same hall that served as a courtroom also became a classroom. Beyond the legal judgments and financial dealings, the Guildhall was the epicenter of a different kind of transaction, the passing of knowledge from one generation to the next. This was where the future of the craft was secured, through a rigid and deeply personal system of education that began with the signing of an indenture contract. A young boy, often no more than 12 or 13, would stand before the guild masters with his father. He was not there to choose a job, but to be bound to a master for a term of 7 years. The contract, signed and witnessed in the hall's solemn atmosphere, was a legal and moral commitment. The master pledged to feed, house, and clothe the apprentice and to teach him the secrets of the trade, not just the manual skills, but the entire art and mystery of the craft. In return, the boy vowed obedience and loyalty, his labor belonging entirely to the master for the duration of his term. This was not a simple employment agreement. It was the forging of a new family, with the Guildhall as its official birthplace. Life for an apprentice was one of total immersion. He lived in the master's household, starting his day not at the workbench, but by sweeping floors, stoking the forge, or preparing materials. This menial work was the first lesson in humility and the foundation of the craft. He learned by watching, by listening, and by doing the most basic tasks until they became second nature. The Guildhall itself was the backdrop for his formal introduction to the wider community of craftsmen. It was here he would attend certain guild meetings and feasts, learning the customs, rituals, and unwritten rules that governed his new professional family. He was absorbing a culture, a moral code that emphasized honesty, quality, and fair dealing. A master was responsible for more than just producing a skilled worker. He was molding a future guild brother who understood that his personal honor was inextricably linked to the reputation of the entire craft. After his 7-year term, if he had proven himself capable and diligent, the apprentice reached a critical juncture. He would return to the Guildhall to be examined by the masters, and if successful, he was released from his indenture and became a journeyman. The name comes from the French word for day, journey, because he was now entitled to earn a daily wage for his labor. This was not the end of his education, but the beginning of its final phase. A journeyman was expected to travel, to leave his hometown and work for different masters in other cities. This wanderjar, or year of traveling, was a brilliant innovation. It prevented skills from becoming stagnant and insular, allowing new techniques, designs, and ideas to cross regional boundaries. A journeyman carpenter from Cologne might learn a novel jointing technique in Bruges and bring that knowledge back home, enriching the entire guild. The final daunting step to mastery also unfolded within the Guildhall's walls. To become a master, a journeyman had to create his masterpiece, a piece of work that unequivocally demonstrated his complete command of the craft. This was not a piece of art for its own sake, but a functional object made to the guild's most exacting standards. A prospective master metalsmith might be required to forge a complex lock and key, while a tailor would have to cut and sew a specific style of garment. The finished piece was then presented in the great hall for judgment by a panel of sitting masters. They would inspect every detail, testing its quality, durability, and adherence to the established rules. This was the ultimate examination, a public defense of his skill and his right to join their ranks. Only upon their approval could he set up his own workshop, take on his own apprentices, and gain a full voice in guild governance. This entire cycle, from the signing of the first contract to the judging of the final masterpiece, was orchestrated from the Guildhall. It was a self-perpetuating engine of skill and tradition, ensuring that the knowledge and values of the guild did not simply survive, but were refined and strengthened with every new generation that passed through its doors. After the serious business of judgment and training, the great hall would transform. The same space that echoed with legal arguments and the nervous shuffling of apprentices now filled with the roar of conversation and the rich smells of a feast. These banquets were legendary, elaborate affairs that could last for hours. Long trestle tables were draped in linen and laden with roasted swans, whole pigs with apples in their mouths, and towering pies filled with game. Rivers of ale and imported wine flowed freely, but this was far more than a simple celebration of plenty. Every detail of the feast was a carefully orchestrated ritual designed to reinforce the guild's internal order. The master craftsmen sat at the high table, their position a visible reminder of their status. The journeymen sat together further down, while the apprentices served the food, learning their place in the hierarchy through action. Toasting was a formal ceremony, with each rank expected to propose a drink in turn, honoring the guild, its patron saint, and its leaders. These rituals, performed again and year after year, wove a powerful web of shared experience and mutual obligation. A master sharing a toast with a journeyman was not just being friendly, he was publicly acknowledging their bond as brothers of the same craft. Disputes that festered during the work week could be smoothed over with a shared cup in the convivial atmosphere. Trust, the most fragile and essential ingredient for any collective enterprise, was not just discussed, it was forged in the fire of shared celebration. The feast reminded every man, from the lowest apprentice to the most senior master, that their individual success was inextricably linked to the health and unity of the whole. This was the social glue that held the entire economic machine together. How could you cheat a man with whom you had just sung an old drinking song? How could you undermine the rules of a community that had celebrated your own promotion just a year before? The Guildhall's walls absorbed the laughter and the speeches, the clatter of plates and the clinking of cups, and in doing so they became more than stone and timber. They became the keeper of the guild's collective soul, a soul nourished as much by fellowship as by fortune. Such lavish feasts and grand halls did not appear by magic. They were born from a colossal financial undertaking, a shared burden shouldered by every member of the guild. The construction of a guild hall was a monumental expense, and funding it required a sophisticated system of collective finance. The primary source of capital came from the membership itself. Each master craftsman was required to pay an annual subscription fee, a direct investment in their collective future. These regular dues formed the bedrock of the building fund, a steady drip of capital that could be saved over many years for such an ambitious project. But the treasury was also swelled by other means. The fines levied in the guild's courtroom for breaking trade rules did not simply vanish. They flowed directly into the same strongbox, turning internal discipline into bricks and mortar. A baker fined for selling undersized loaves was, in a very real sense, helping to pay for the new ovens in the hall's kitchen. New members paid a hefty entrance fee, a premium for the privilege of joining the established brotherhood, and a portion of this was often earmarked for the hall. The guild might also take out loans from its own wealthiest members, repaying them with interest from future income, a primitive but effective form of internal banking. This multifaceted funding strategy was a powerful statement in itself. It proved that the guild was more than a temporary alliance. It was a permanent corporation, capable of planning for a future its founders would never see. The very act of contributing, whether through dues or fines, bound each member more tightly to the project. A master who had paid a significant portion of his earnings into the building fund was not just a user of the hall, he was a part owner with a tangible stake in its success and a deep personal pride in its grandeur. With the funds secured, the real work of creation could begin. The procurement of materials was a logistical puzzle solved by the guild's own network and expertise. If it was a carpenter's guild, the master builders within the membership would venture into the forest to select the finest, straightest oaks for the great roof beams. For a stonemason's guild, the quarrying and transportation of stone was their own specialty. Other guilds had to rely on the same market forces they so carefully controlled, negotiating with trusted suppliers, often from other guilds in a symbiotic relationship. The weavers' guild might commission the carpenters for their timber work, while the carpenters would in turn buy their cloth for banners from the weavers. The hiring of labor was a point of immense pride and a testament to the system's integrity. The best craftsmen for the job were very often drawn from the guild's own ranks. A goldsmith's guild would naturally task its master metalsmiths with forging the intricate ironwork for the doors and locks. The painter's guild would be commissioned to decorate the interior walls, and the woodcarvers to adorn the ceilings with their intricate designs. This was the ultimate quality control, a public demonstration that the skills they regulated and certified were of the highest possible standard. The hall itself became a living portfolio, a permanent advertisement for the master craftsmen who built it. Every joint, every carving, every forged hinge was a silent, enduring testament to their collective skill. This was not just construction, it was a performance, a masterpiece created not by one man but by the entire community, proving that their ambition was matched only by their ability. Step inside and the Guildhall's interior told its own story of power and place. The grand main hall was the beating heart of the building, a vast space designed to hold the entire membership. Here, the rigid social order of the guild was made visible in timber and stone. At one end, a raised dais supported the high table, reserved exclusively for the guild masters and senior wardens. Their chairs were often ornately carved, throne-like seats that physically elevated them above the rest. The journeymen and apprentices occupied the main floor, their benches arranged in rows facing the dais. This was not a democratic seating plan. Your position in the room was a direct reflection of your rank within the organization, a constant architectural reminder of the ladder you were climbing. Just off the main hall lay a series of smaller, more private chambers. The council room was where the real power resided. This was a closed space, accessible only to the elected masters, where sensitive matters were debated away from the ears of the general membership. Within these walls, they decided on fines, settled internal disputes, and negotiated with town officials. The privacy of this room underscored a fundamental truth, that while the guild was a brotherhood, it was a brotherhood led by a privileged few. Nearby, the kitchen and buttery hummed with activity, especially before a feast. These service areas were the domain of servants and apprentices, the engine rooms that powered the guild's legendary hospitality. Deep cellars and secure storerooms held the guild's tangible wealth, barrels of wine, sacks of grain, and the all-important strongbox. Every doorway, every step, every assigned seat was a deliberate design choice. An apprentice entering the main hall would instinctively look toward the high table, his ultimate goal made manifest in wood. A journeyman summoned to the council room knew he was stepping into a sphere of greater influence. The building itself was a three-dimensional map of the guild's social world, teaching every man his place simply by where he was permitted to stand, sit, or speak. The goldsmith's hall gleamed with wealth, but the blacksmith's hall roared with the heat of the forge. Guildhalls were not the exclusive domain of the merchant elite. Every skilled trade, from the humble bakers to the powerful weavers, aspired to raise a hall of their own. These buildings were the universal symbols of a craft's arrival, its declaration of permanence and pride. The scale and opulence, however, varied dramatically, painting a clear picture of the town's economic hierarchy. The great merchant guilds, who controlled the flow of goods and capital, built veritable palaces. Their halls were sprawling stone complexes with ornate facades and towering belfries, designed to awe visitors and intimidate rivals. They were cathedrals of commerce, and their architecture left no doubt about their financial supremacy. But just a few streets away, the craft guilds made their own statements. The Hall of the Weavers Guild might be more modest in size, but it was no less vital. Weaving was often a town's primary industry, and their hall served as a central warehouse, a quality control station, and the administrative center for hundreds of looms. It was a functional, powerful building, even if its carvings were less gilded than the merchants'. Further down the ladder, the Carpenters' Guild Hall was a testament to their own material. It was likely a magnificent timber frame structure, its great hall roofed with beams they had hewn and joined themselves. This was their masterpiece, a living advertisement of their skill for all to see. The Bakers' Guild might occupy a smaller, sturdier building, its thick walls helping to regulate the temperature for storing grain, and its large ovens a communal resource. And then there was the Blacksmiths' Guild, their hall often identifiable by the constant plume of smoke and the ringing of hammers from an attached workshop. Their space was practical and strong, built to withstand the intense heat and heavy work that defined their trade. Each hall, from the grandest to the most utilitarian, served the same core purposes. It was a secure treasury, a courtroom, a meeting place, and a social club. The drive to possess one was a universal ambition. For a successful craft guild, acquiring a hall was the ultimate milestone. It meant they had accumulated enough collective capital, enough members, and enough political clout to anchor themselves permanently in the town's physical and social landscape. A guild without a hall was still just a group of individuals. A guild with a hall was a lasting institution, a force that would shape the city for generations to come. The same hall where guild masters judged their peers soon became the stage where they judged the fate of the entire town. As commerce generated immense wealth, political power followed. The most successful and respected guild masters naturally ascended to become the city's aldermen, its mayor and its council members. Their expertise in managing complex finances, settling disputes and organizing large projects made them the obvious choice for civic leadership. In countless towns across Europe, the Guildhall did not just house the guild, it housed the government. The building itself seamlessly transitioned from a trade union headquarters by day to the town hall by evening. This was not a hostile takeover, but a logical fusion. The men who controlled the economy were simply taking direct control of the polity as well. Decisions that affected every single citizen, from the level of taxes to fund the city walls to the maintenance of bridges and wells, were debated and decided within the Guildhall's council chamber. The city's treasury, often kept in the same secure strongbox as the guild's own funds, was guarded under its roof. This meant that the economic regulations crafted to protect a specific trade were now being replaced by civic laws designed to benefit the entire urban community, yet they were still written by the same class of men. The Guildhall, therefore, became the true engine of urban political power, a place where the interests of commerce and the needs of the city became one and the same. Can you see the profound shift? A building originally intended to protect the privileges of a few craftsmen had evolved into the command center for an entire population, its walls now echoing with debates about public health, city defense, and the common good. The stone giant in the market square was no longer just watching over trade, it was steering the ship of state. A town square crowded with guild halls was a battlefield of stone and timber. The grand facade of the Weavers' Hall was not built in isolation. It was a direct challenge to the Merchants' Guild across the cobblestones, a silent declaration that their craft was the equal of any trade in riches and influence. This architectural rivalry was a constant, unspoken competition, where every guild sought to outbuild its neighbors. The size of your hall, the quality of its carvings, and especially its location were not matters of mere vanity. They were powerful public statements of your guild's economic muscle and political standing. In cities like Ghent or Bruges, you could witness this drama etched in the very skyline. The cloth hall's immense fortified bulk would be answered by the boatmen's guild's tall, elegant spire, each structure shouting its importance in a different architectural language. Even the choice of materials was a calculated move. A guild that could afford to build entirely in imported stone was making a far bolder claim than one that used local timber, no matter how skillfully crafted. This was a game of one-upmanship played over generations, where each new wing or ornate gable added to a hall was a fresh volley in a silent war for prestige. The town square became a gallery of power, where every citizen and visitor could instantly gauge the shifting fortunes of the town's leading trades simply by looking at their homes. A newly enlarged hall for the goldsmiths signaled a surge in their wealth, while a rival guild's aging, unimproved building hinted at a slow decline. This competition drove guilds to pour astonishing resources into their headquarters, transforming entire city centers into breathtaking displays of civic pride and commercial ambition. The soaring towers and lavish decorations we admire today were often born not from pure artistic spirit, but from the fierce, burning desire to not be outdone by the guild next door. That same great hall, built for feasting and justice, could transform into an armory overnight. Beyond their economic and political power, the guilds held a critical and often overlooked responsibility: the physical defense of the town itself. In an era of frequent conflict and scarce standing armies, the security of a city's walls depended on its own citizens. The guilds, with their organized membership and financial resources, were the perfect vehicle for raising a militia. Each guild was typically assigned a specific section of the city walls to defend, and was responsible for providing a certain number of fighting men from its own ranks. A master blacksmith would be expected to fight, but his primary duty was to ensure his journeymen and apprentices were properly equipped, often with weapons and armor forged in his own workshop. The Weavers' Guild might be tasked with producing the militia's uniforms or banners, while the carpenters would maintain the siege engines and the wooden hoardings atop the battlements. This system turned every trade into a military unit, with the Guildhall as its command post. The building's deep cellars and secure storerooms, once filled with bolts of cloth or barrels of wine, could be swiftly repurposed to hold pikes, crossbows, and suits of mail. When the alarm bells sounded, the Guildhall became the mustering point. Instead of gathering to debate prices or judge a masterpiece, the members assembled as a military company. The master, who just days before was presiding over a feast, now took on the role of a junior captain, calling the roll and ensuring every man was present and armed. The council chamber, where they had negotiated trade deals, became a war room for planning defense strategies with the town's other guild leaders. This direct link between commerce and security was profound. A guild had a vested interest in protecting the town, not out of abstract patriotism, but because their entire fortune was locked within its walls. Their workshops, their warehouses, their hall, and their homes were all contained in the same vulnerable space. An invading army would not just threaten their lives, it would destroy the economic ecosystem they had spent generations building. The Guildhall, therefore, stood as the ultimate symbol of this collective self-interest. It was the strongbox for their wealth, the seat of their government, and the fortress that coordinated the defense of everything they had built. The stone giant in the square was not just watching the market, it was guarding the gates. The silence of the Guildhall could be shattered in an instant by the solemn chorus of an oath. When a new apprentice was bound to his master, the ceremony was a profound and secretive affair, conducted away from the public eye. The boy would place his hand upon the guild's charter or a relic of their patron saint, his voice repeating the words that tied his fate to the craft. He vowed obedience, loyalty, and secrecy, swearing not to reveal the mysteries he was about to learn. This was more than a contract, it was a spiritual initiation, a rebirth into a new family with its own laws and legends. The echoing chamber, usually filled with debate or feasting, was hushed for this sacred transaction, the very stone seeming to bear witness to the promise. This ritual was repeated for journeymen becoming masters, each oath layering another thread of obligation into the guild's collective soul. The hall was the only place such vows could hold their full power, sanctified by generations of tradition. But the most spectacular transformation occurred on religious feast days. The great hall's doors would swing open, and the guild's mystery would literally parade into the streets. Each guild was responsible for staging a specific episode from the Bible, a tradition known as the mystery plays. The shipwrights would build a magnificent wooden ark for the story of Noah, while the goldsmiths crafted gleaming halos and the bakers prepared unleavened bread for the Last Supper. These performances were not simple reenactments, they were a fusion of deep faith and corporate pride. The entire biblical narrative would unfold on pageant wagons that rolled through the town, with guild members acting the parts. The Guildhall served as the backstage, the green room, and the storage for all the elaborate props and costumes. Here, a master carpenter would nervously rehearse his lines as Joseph, while apprentices scrambled to secure the wings of an angel costume. The plays made the divine story immediate and tangible, but they also served a crucial social function. They demonstrated the guild's piety, its wealth, and its essential role in the community's spiritual life. For the duration of the performance, the boundary between the sacred and the profane blurred. The same hands that measured cloth or hammered metal now gestured in a holy drama, and the hall that hosted raucous feasts became for a day a portal to the divine. These ceremonies, from the whispered oath to the public spectacle, were the lifeblood of the guild's identity. They reminded every member that their work was not merely a trade, but a calling, a small part of a much larger cosmic order. The Guildhall was the vessel for this belief, a place where the noise of commerce always gave way in the end to the sound of music and mystery. But no golden age lasts forever. The very walls that protected the guild's power began to enclose them, sealing them off from a world that was rapidly changing around them. By the late Middle Ages, the rigid system that had once guaranteed quality and stability began to show its cracks. New economic forces, powerful and impersonal, were rising. Kings and queens, seeking to consolidate their own authority, viewed the guild's independent power with suspicion. They began to centralize control, issuing royal patents and national regulations that overrode the local rules the guilds had so carefully crafted. Why should a monarch ask permission from the Bakers' Guild when a royal decree could set the price of bread for an entire kingdom? This erosion of their legal autonomy was a devastating blow. At the same time, new forms of production were emerging that the guild system could not contain. The domestic system, or putting out system, saw entrepreneurs provide raw materials to workers in their own homes, bypassing the guild-controlled workshop entirely. A merchant could supply wool to families in a dozen villages, then collect the finished cloth and sell it on a vast international market. This model had no need for 7-year apprenticeships or masterpiece judgments. It prioritized volume and price over the old ideals of quality and craft. The final unstoppable wave was the rise of capitalist finance. Wealth was no longer measured solely in skilled hands and quality goods, but in liquid capital, in investments, and in speculative ventures. A wealthy investor could fund a factory equipped with new machines that could produce goods faster and cheaper than any guild craftsman. The guilds, built on the principle of controlling a local monopoly, were utterly unprepared for this new world of global competition and industrial scale. Their halls, once symbols of unshakable permanence, now stood as monuments to an economic model that was becoming obsolete. So what became of these stone giants when the heart of their purpose ceased to beat? Their fates were as varied as the towns they had built. In many places, the Guildhall simply shed its old skin and was reborn. The building that had housed the Weavers' or Merchants' Guild was so central to civic life that it naturally evolved into the official town hall. The council chamber, where masters had once debated trade standards, now hosted debates on public works and city ordinances. The strongbox that held the guild's treasury now safeguarded the municipal funds. This was a peaceful transition, a recognition that the building's true function had always been about governance, even if it started as a private club. Other halls found new life through education. The same rooms where apprentices had learned their trade through observation and practice were perfectly suited for classrooms. Some of Europe's most respected schools began within the repurposed walls of a guild hall, the pursuit of knowledge replacing the mastery of a craft. The great halls that once echoed with feasts and legal proceedings found a new dignity as libraries, museums, or art galleries. Their soaring ceilings and impressive architecture provided a fitting home for a city's cultural treasures, a new kind of communal wealth, yet not all stories had such a graceful second act. For every guild hall that transformed, another fell into a slow, quiet decay. As the guilds themselves dissolved, their halls were sometimes simply abandoned, the funds for their upkeep gone. The magnificent carvings were weathered by rain, the leaded glass windows shattered, and the great oak beams groaned under the weight of neglect. For a time, they might be used as cheap storage or temporary housing, a sad echo of their former grandeur. The most poignant fate was demolition. A guild hall standing on prime real estate in a growing industrial city was often seen not as a historic treasure, but as an obstacle to progress. Many were torn down to make way for wider streets, railway stations, or modern commercial buildings. The very stones that had witnessed centuries of oaths and celebrations were carted away to become rubble for new foundations. The physical disappearance of these buildings was the final confirmation that the world they represented was truly gone. The Guildhall's journey from a fortress of commerce to a relic of history reminds us that even the most powerful institutions are not immune to the tides of change. Their enduring stone shells now house the ghosts of a system built not on profit alone, but on honor, quality, and a profound sense of belonging. Archaeological evidence scrapes away the varnish of time, revealing a world of sweat and sawdust that chronicles often ignored. While guild records speak of laws and finances, the stones and soil whisper of daily labor, excavations of Guildhall sites consistently turn up dense layers of discarded materials, the physical residue of the crafts practiced within. Around a carpenter's guild hall, the earth is often black with wood chips and fragments of bone or antler from handle making. The site of a metalworker's guild might be laced with droplets of spilled copper and tin, along with the fragile remains of clay casting molds. These are not the grand artifacts of a treasury, but the humble leavings of the workshop, proof that these halls were not just administrative centers, but vibrant, noisy places of production. The sheer volume of this waste speaks to the scale of their operations, a tangible measure of the economic activity that written accounts simply list as numbers in a ledger. Beneath the floorboards of a great hall, another story is buried. Archaeologists sifting through the compacted earth frequently find thick deposits of animal bones, but these are not the scraps of a simple meal. The bones tell a precise tale of wealth and status, They are predominantly from the prime cuts of expensive animals, young cattle, suckling pigs, and tender lambs. The butchery marks show skilled, deliberate carving, not the haphazard chops of a hurried cook. Mixed with these are fragments of fine pottery and, in wealthier guilds, the occasional shard of imported glass. This is the garbage of a feast, a silent testament to the lavish banquets that cemented social bonds. The historical records mention the feasts, but the rubbish pits quantify them, revealing the staggering expense and the deliberate consumption of luxury foods that reinforced the guild's high standing for all its members to see. Perhaps the most telling archaeological finds are the subtle changes to the buildings themselves. As you walk through the ruins of a guild hall, you can trace its history not in parchment, but in its walls. A stone archway bricked up, a new doorway cut through a thick wall, a once large hall partitioned into smaller, specialized rooms. These alterations are the guild's biography written in masonry. An expansion of the council chamber might coincide with a period when the guild gained greater political power in the town. The subdivision of the Great Hall could reflect a growing bureaucracy, a need for more private spaces for record-keeping and meetings as the guild's affairs became more complex. These modifications were costly and disruptive, undertaken only for compelling reasons. They show us an institution that was not static, but dynamically adapting to new pressures and opportunities, its physical form constantly evolving to meet the changing needs of its members. The architecture had to keep pace with ambition. Sometimes the ground offers a surprise that challenges the official story. Written guild statutes might proudly declare strict rules against allowing certain activities within the hall, perhaps for fear of fire or to maintain decorum. Yet excavations have uncovered small personal hearths or evidence of metalworking in corners of the yard, suggesting that on a day-to-day basis, the masters and journeymen bent their own rules for practicality's sake. In one notable case, the foundation of a guild hall, long thought to be a unified construction from a single prosperous era, was revealed to have been built in several struggling phases, with cheaper materials used in the earlier hidden layers. This physical evidence contradicted the guild's own foundation myth of instant, glorious success, exposing a more humble and hardscrabble beginning that the official chronicles had airbrushed away. The stones do not lie. They tell a grittier, more human story of adaptation, compromise, and a relentless drive to build something lasting. One stone, one feast, and one discarded tool at a time. The stones of a guild hall hold more than just history. They hold the echoes of old fears. Long after the last guild master had passed and his strongbox was emptied, the townspeople continued to speak of the building in hushed tones, weaving a new kind of mystery around its silent halls. They told of a phantom merchant who appeared on foggy nights, his ledger forever open, still trying to collect on a debt centuries old. There were tales of cursed treasures, of gold coins that felt strangely warm to the touch and brought misfortune to any who spent them, said to be hidden within a sealed cavity in the cellar wall. But the most persistent stories were always about the apprentices. In one town, the legend spoke of a young boy wrongly accused of stealing silver from his master. He was cast out from the guild in disgrace and, broken by the shame, took his own life. For generations after, people claimed to hear the sound of soft, frantic sobbing coming from the Guildhall's attic, the very place the boy had slept. These were not just ghost stories for entertainment. They were a form of folk memory, a way for the community to process the immense power and occasional injustices of the guild system. The tale of the weeping apprentice was a cautionary reminder of the high stakes of that world, where a single accusation could destroy a life. The cursed treasure warned against the dangers of greed, even within an institution built on wealth. The buildings themselves, so imposing and full of secrets, invited these legends. Their heavy doors and shadowy corners were perfect vessels for the supernatural. Why would a community cling to these ghostly tales long after the guilds themselves had faded? Perhaps because it was easier to populate an empty building with spirits than to accept that the vibrant, complex world of oaths and craftsmanship it once housed was simply gone. The ghosts ensured that the Guildhall never truly died. It merely changed residence from the masters of commerce to the permanent tenants of the human imagination. Across the English Channel, and the very soul of a Guildhall seemed to shift with the landscape. In the prosperous wool towns of England and the timber-rich regions of Germany, the halls were statements of organic, local power. They rose from the ground in spectacular timber frame construction, a forest of craftsmanship made manifest. The weight of the entire structure was carried by an intricate skeleton of hand-hewn oak beams, fitted together with complex joints that locked without a single nail. The spaces between these frames were filled with wattle and daub, a mix of woven sticks and clay, then often painted in rich ochres, deep reds, or brilliant whites. The effect was one of warmth and immense skill, a building that showcased the carpenter's art in every visible beam. The famous Guildhall in Lavenham, England, seems to lean and bulge with centuries of character, its crooked silhouette a familiar and beloved feature of the town square. It was not trying to be a fortress, it was declaring the mastery of the local woodworkers for all to see. Yet travel southeast into the commercial heartlands of Flanders and northern France, and a different philosophy of power emerged in stone. Here in cities like Ypres and Bruges, the cloth trade generated fortunes that rivaled kingdoms. Their guild halls were not timbered homes, they were halls, vast fortified stone palaces that dominated the city center with an almost brutal grandeur. The cloth hall of Ypres, before its destruction in the Great War, stretched for over 400 feet, its facade a relentless parade of pointed arches and niches holding statues of counts and countesses, with a central belfry piercing the sky. This was not just a building, it was a civic crown. The choice of stone over timber was a deliberate one. Stone was permanence, it was defense, it was a declaration that the guild's wealth was so immense, so foundational to the city, that it required a literal fortress to protect it and a monumental scale to celebrate it. The political winds shaped these structures as much as the available materials. In the more fragmented political world of the Holy Roman Empire, where power was divided among countless princes and bishops, a German guildhall's ornate carvings and tall, narrow profile often reflected a fierce local pride and a degree of independence. It was the headquarters of a powerful corporation within a complex political chessboard. In France, where royal authority was slowly but steadily centralizing, the Grand Hall often served a dual purpose, housing both the guild's operations and the king's tax collectors, a physical reminder that even the wealthiest merchants ultimately answered to a higher crown. From the crooked, human-scale timber frames of England to the imperious stone fortresses of Flanders, the Guildhall was a universal idea tailored by local reality. It was the same heart beating to the unique rhythm of its homeland. Those stone giants never truly vanished from our cities. Walk through the old quarters of London, Bruges, or any number of historic towns, and you will find the Guildhalls still standing, their original purpose transformed but their presence undiminished. Many have become museums, their great halls now filled not with feasting masters, but with quiet visitors gazing upon the very tools and treasures the guilds once produced. Others have been reborn as elegant restaurants, where the clatter of plates echoes where legal arguments once rang out, or as luxury hotels where guests sleep in chambers that once held secure strongboxes. These buildings have proven to be remarkably adaptable, their sturdy construction and central locations making them perfect venues for weddings, concerts, and civic events. They are no longer the exclusive domain of a single trade, but have been returned to the community as a whole, fulfilling a new role as keepers of collective memory. This physical continuity is a direct link to our past, a daily reminder that the foundations of our modern world were laid in these very spaces. The impulse that drove craftsmen to build these dedicated homes has never left us. Look at the gleaming skyscrapers that house today's professional associations, from the bar associations for lawyers to the institutes for engineers. These are our modern guild halls serving the same essential functions. They set professional standards and ethical codes, they offer networking and continuing education, and they provide a collective identity for their members. Labor unions with their union halls are the direct descendants of the craft guilds, fighting for fair wages, safe working conditions, and the dignity of their members, just as the guilds did for their brothers centuries ago. Even the corporate campus, with its own restaurants, gyms, and meeting spaces, is a manifestation of this ancient desire. It creates a world within a world, a dedicated home for a community defined by its work. Why does this concept endure? Because the human need for belonging, for professional identity, and for a physical place to call our own within the vast landscape of commerce is as powerful today as it was in the Middle Ages. The materials have changed from oak and stone to glass and steel, but the fundamental architecture of professional life remains strikingly familiar. We often picture these halls as welcoming public spaces, but that is a modern fantasy. Guild halls were not medieval shopping malls open to all. Their doors were heavily guarded, both literally and figuratively. Access was a privilege strictly reserved for sworn members of the guild. An ordinary citizen could not simply wander in to browse the wares or watch a meeting. The ground floor market arcade might be open for business, but the grand hall upstairs, the council chambers, and the secure treasuries were off limits. These spaces were the inner sanctums of power, where trade secrets were debated, legal disputes were settled, and the collective wealth was stored. Allowing the public inside would have been like inviting your competitors to sit in on your corporate board meeting today. The Guildhall's imposing facade was meant for public viewing, but its inner workings were a fiercely protected mystery. Another common misconception paints these institutions as an exclusive boys' club. While it is true that the highest ranks of master craftsmen were overwhelmingly male, the story is more nuanced. In many towns, women played vital and officially recognized roles within the guild system. A master's widow often had the right to continue running the workshop after his death, taking on apprentices and managing the business. In the silk trades of cities like Cologne or Paris, women could be full members of the guild, working as silk spinners or embroiderers. Some guilds, like the yarn makers, were even dominated by female membership. They operated under the same rules, paid dues, and enjoyed the guild's protections. The idea of a completely male-only world inside the Guildhall crumbles under the weight of these historical records. The reality was a controlled, complex environment, not a simple fortress of masculinity. Perhaps the most persistent myth is that these were simply early marketplaces. The Guildhall was not a passive building where independent shops rented space. It was the command center for a monopoly. Every transaction that occurred under its roof, or even in the town square it overlooked, was governed by the guild's rigid code. The prices were fixed, the quality was inspected, and the participants were all sworn brothers and sisters of the same organization. There was no free market competition here. The Guildhall existed to enforce control, not to encourage it. Understanding these truths strips away the romantic veneer and reveals the Guildhall for what it was: a sophisticated tool for managing power, protecting privilege, and building a legacy, one strictly enforced rule at a time. Beneath the grand halls and council chambers lay a second invisible architecture. Modern archaeologists and restorers, tapping on walls and scanning with ground-penetrating radar, have uncovered a world of secrets woven into the Guildhall's very fabric. Concealed behind a paneled wall, a narrow staircase might descend into a lightless chamber, a hidden strongroom where the guild's most valuable treasures could be secreted away during a riot or a siege. This was not paranoia, it was practical necessity. In an age without banks, a guild's collective fortune in gold, silver, and precious gems was a tantalizing target. A publicized treasury invited disaster, but a vault known only to a few senior masters was the ultimate insurance policy. Other passages served a more political purpose. A cleverly pivoting bookcase in a council chamber could open onto a hidden gallery overlooking the main hall. From this secluded perch, uninvited guests could silently observe the general membership, listening to debates and gauging loyalties without being seen. This was the architecture of control, a way for the leadership to monitor the mood of the brotherhood and identify potential troublemakers. The most dramatic secrets were the escape routes. A seemingly solid hearth in a ground floor office might conceal a cramped tunnel, its entrance masked by soot and shadow, leading to a nearby tavern or a private residence on a neighboring street. In times of civil unrest or a hostile takeover by a rival guild, these passages offered a last, desperate chance for the masters to flee with the guild's charter and seals, preserving the institution's legal life even if its physical home was lost. Computer-generated reconstructions allow us to peel back the stones and see these features as they were intended, not as dusty ruins but as functioning parts of a living, breathing fortress of commerce. We can fly through the walls to reveal the hidden stairwell coiled inside a massive chimney stack, or watch as a section of floor swings upward to expose a cavity packed with iron-bound chests. Why go to such elaborate lengths? Because the guild's power was a delicate thing, built on wealth, information, and legal authority. Each required its own kind of protection, and the Guildhall's hidden blueprint provided it all, ensuring that the most valuable assets of the organization, its money, its intelligence, and its leaders always had a way to vanish from sight. So the Guildhall was never just a single thing, but the heart of a living, breathing organism. It stood as a fortress of commerce guarding immense fortunes, a courtroom where the law of the trade was dispensed, and a school where the secrets of a craft were passed to a new generation. Its great hall echoed with both the solemnity of legal oaths and the raucous joy of a feast, while its council chamber quietly evolved into a political powerhouse steering the destiny of the entire town. Every stone was a testament to the guild's economic muscle, every carved beam a symbol of its hard-won social cohesion, and its prime location in the market square was a permanent declaration of its civic ambition. These structures did not simply occupy space in a medieval town, they actively shaped its very identity, creating the bustling, prosperous urban landscapes that will become the blueprints for our modern cities. The next time you walk through a historic city center, look for the old Guildhall standing watch over the square and consider the centuries of commerce, community, and power held within its walls. What stories do you think its stones could tell? Share your own thoughts on these fascinating buildings in the comments